Welcome back to my channel. I have a great guest today. His name is Daniel Vincent.
Yeah,
And he is in Australia, and I'm excited to have you on today because you're going to be a different kind of voice in the carnivore community. I love that you're young. How old are you?
I'm 18. Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited.
Great. Well, I love that we're going to talk to someone that's 18 and see a different perspective. And I want anybody watching this interview to send this interview when we're done to a teenager that you know that might have some of the similar problems that Daniel had. And I just think your story is really inspiring and could help so many young people. So why don't you start by telling us about your journey to carnivore, and you can promote your channel if you like and tell us about that.
Yeah, sure. So I've been in the carnivore diet for around 3 months. Um, so 3 months ago I started the carnivore diet. How I found the carnivore diet? Well, about 2 years ago, I was following a lot of the traditional, gym advice. Go to the gym, take protein shakes, have heaps of carbs, smash it down, and it just wasn't working. I mean, it was working in the gym, but I just had really, really bad acne everywhere. I had massive volcanoes on my face. I literally had to have like surgery to get rid of a pimple. That's how big they were. It was just pussing everywhere. And, as a teenager going to school every day, I didn't really want to go because I just had these massive things in my face and everyone could see them. And and then, I'd go to the doctors, the dermatologists, and they'd just be like, oh, it's just genetic, it's just your hormones, you're going through puberty. And none of my friends had this problem. So I was a little bit confused. Maybe there was
Mm-hmm.
something wrong with me. They chucked me on a pill called Accutane. Um, and this pill is toxic.
Mm-hmm.
Kids have literally like killed themselves because of this pill, and
Really?
they've written on the note like this was thanks to Accutane. In America, I've seen like
Are you
stuff like that,
serious?
and
I
they've sued
only,
them.
oh wow. I've only heard of the connection to the birth defects if you get pregnant on it.
Oh yeah, they literally don't let you take it. They don't let women take it if they're like gonna be pregnant and
Right.
stuff. So it's pretty powerful. And
That's
yes,
terrible.
so I was on that, and it just destroyed my physical and mental health. Absolutely. It left me really depressed. It just ruined my body. Every one of my joints to this day is still extremely sensitive. I can't go
Really?
back to the gym yet. I've had like
Wow.
I've had a surgery on each shoulder because of the drug. It's just
Okay, I
it
had no
really
idea about this. This is crazy. And
yeah.
when did you
So
get off of that?
I got off. I did a few cycles because I thought it was the only fix for my acne,
Yeah.
and I got off it after about like 10 to 11 months because our parents are just like, nah, this is too much. It's not worth it. And then yeah, so they didn't really address the root cause. They were just
Mm.
sort of like, oh, I wish someone told me about the carnivore diet then because I guarantee, well, my acne was pretty bad, but I do think it would have fixed it. As you can see now,
Yeah, your
and
skin looks, hmm
my acne did come back as well. It's not just like the drug fixed it and now it's good. It came back bad when you go off it. And then, yeah, now I've been on a carnivore diet. I haven't worked out with any pimples.
Wow.
It's pretty sick. And just a few other things like ADHD, depression. I was on all these drugs and, gained a lot of weight because I didn't really have much hope. And then I was doing a bit of research because I didn't really want to live like this. And the doctors told me I'm just stuck with this for life. And, I was dealing with feelings of hopelessness because it's not the life I wanted to live. I couldn't do any sport. All my friends are doing sport. I was overweight. I couldn't even go to college or university. It was my dream course, but I couldn't go because I just couldn't focus. I just was so depressed. I just had pain everywhere.
Wow.
And then I found the carnivore diet. I found the low carb space in the carnivore diet. And man, the hope it gives when you're so down bad and the hope it gives to someone, when you
hmm
give them some hope, that's all you need to keep going, some hope. And that's
hmm
all I needed. And as soon as I found about it, I was just binging. I was literally binging videos and
hmm
binging Reddit posts about the benefits and looking at, Michaela Peterson and stuff and all these people seeing these crazy benefits. And
hmm
it hooked me. I didn't, people were saying, oh, you're going to die of a heart attack. I honestly didn't care. I didn't care if I
hmm
died of a heart attack. as long as there's some, as long as there's you know, a future or a hope. So I tried it, and obviously I didn't die of a heart attack. I'm here 3 months later. And before I didn't know much about the science, I just saw the anecdotes and tried it. But now it's changed my life, and now I'm learning about the science, and I'm starting to get educated on it, and I'm starting to try to educate other people. So that's sort of why we started the YouTube channel 1 month ago. So yeah,
That is so awesome. So your channel, you do a lot of videos to help people start on the carnivore diet or answer
yeah,
questions. You do a really good job. Um, and I kind of loved your video on the ADHD because my daughter has ADHD. Do you have any baggage from, having that and not being diagnosed until you were older? I know that that can create a lot of problems if you don't know quite what's going on. Did you have trouble in school, stuff like that?
yeah. My parents always thought I had ADHD. I had a lot of trouble in school. Teachers always said, "Oh, he has so much potential. It's a shame that he doesn't listen in class or he can't do his
Hmm.
homework." On every single report at the end of the year, it said that. And I guess getting a diagnosis was a huge weight off my chest. It was a
Yeah,
huge relief because I'm like, oh, this explains a lot.
right,
And yeah, the diagnosis was great, but then everything else from then, the doctor's solutions was just terrible.
right.
So, and being a kid, when I was 16 or 17, I thought, oh, the doctors are right, they're doctors, you know.
Hmm.
They all said to me, they only fix his pills, you're stuck with it for life. I even went to see like the ADHD doctor in the city, and they all just said there's no fix, really, just pills. And yeah, it's pretty sad solution. And I've cured most of it with the carnivore diet. No one told me about this. I had to find it myself. The doctors won't tell you because they don't benefit or profit from it.
Right.
So yeah, that's another reason to start this channel, to kind of help spread the truth. And mm,
I love that. Did you take any ADHD medications?
yeah, so throughout my final year of school, I took them for like a year, like Adderall, Ritalin, Vyvanse, all
Hmm.
those, and it was a terrible. It helped me focus. It did help me focus
Yeah,
in the short term because I really wanted to get good grades.
yeah.
Because my grades were terrible throughout my whole life, and then finally I was like topping my classes. It was crazy,
Wow.
and but the drugs just, man, they just turn you into a different person. I didn't even speak to anyone at school. I was like an emotionless zombie.
Really? Okay, I
Mm,
wasn't aware of that effect, but I've talked to some adults or young adults that have taken them. Usually they say it's like great while it's working, and then when it wears off, it's like a total
uh,
nightmare.
yeah,
So it
it's like
sounds like a bad cycle to be in.
yeah, and I'm so glad I'm out of it now. And so many kids are still in that cycle. A lot of my friends are, and
Hmm.
it's kind of hard cycle because that is like your potential. You know how good you can be on the drug because you can focus really
Right.
well and like be at your best. So then when you're off it, you feel crap because you're like, hang
Yeah.
on, I want to
Yeah.
focus really well. And so it's a pretty vicious cycle, but I'm glad I've gotten out of it. And although my focus is probably not as good as being on the drug, I don't have many of the side effects, which I think in the long term I'll actually have better results with focus because, I'm not getting these ups and downs heaps.
Hmm. Well, that's
Mm.
awesome. And then were you ever on an antidepressant through this time, like for when you were not doing well and you had gained all that weight and you couldn't
Yeah.
function?
So look, my parents were like, "Oh, go on this antidepressant," and I didn't really have any answers. So I'm like, "Whatever, I'll just try it." I didn't really
Hmm.
care at this point. It didn't do anything, honestly. It just made me probably gain more weight. It just ruined the brain fog, made it worse. And yeah, I'm just gonna wean off them now because I don't have depression anymore. You can't really be depressed in the carnivore diet from my experience. So yeah, the antidepressants. I know they can help a lot of people, but I think it's a pretty poor solution by the medical system.
I do too. I have a lot of experience taking them and they've been a big help to me. But
Hmm.
overall, I've definitely come to the conclusion that it's not the best route. And I'm now 5 days off of Zoloft completely, and it's amazing.
Sick.
So I do think that red meat is the original antidepressant. I'm starting to really think
Mm.
that. I think that it's so powerful for the brain in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you find that red meat makes you feel the best as opposed to like pork and chicken? Because I find that,
Yeah. I find that as well.
yeah.
It makes you feel the best.
And
I
how much weight did you gain?
um 35 kilos in maybe, which is like 35 kilos is probably like 70 pounds
Wow.
in probably like 3 to 4 months. And I spent like
Wow.
over $2,000 on takeaway food just as a way to like sort of, I don't know, it was like a self-sabotaging mechanism for me, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
And now I haven't binge eat. I can look at, I was having 4 or 5 pizzas a day. I was literally biggest binge eater ever, worst mental health. And now I can just look at junk food and not eat it. It's not even me. It's literally the carnivore diet. I think just turning on that leptin signals that tell you when you're
Yeah.
full, and detoxing from the seed oils and sugars that, you know, activate your ghrelin and that. It's so much
Wow.
easier now.
That's impressive. I used to binge eat. I had a compulsive eating disorder when I was your age, and it was pretty bad.
Well,
And I find the
something,
same thing. This way of eating kind of turns off that strange signal that makes you just want to eat even when you're not hungry, and eat too
yeah,
much to where you feel sick. Like you just can't do that
yeah.
when you eat this way. It's so cool. Um, wow. That's such an amazing story. I
Thanks.
love it. It's so important that you share it. When you were growing up, I don't know if it's like this in Australia, but here schools are terrible about using sugar as rewards for little kids in school, and adults in general, use sugar to kind of bribe kids to eat vegetables, or um, reward them for good behavior or good grades. Do they do that? Did you experience that?
Yeah, it was more also just I really wanted sugar and I really didn't want vegetables because I
Yeah,
mean no one actually likes
I
no one
know.
likes vegetables. Like we're all brainwashed. Well, people who like vegetables, they're honestly mentally ill unless they unless they drown it with oils and
Yeah,
drown it with like
cheese
you
and yeah, and
think of a 1 year baby. You give it a
mhm.
vegetable, a piece of broccoli, a Brussels sprout, it's gonna spit it out. It can taste the
uh,
carcinogens. It's not gonna eat it.
yeah, yeah. I found that with all three of my children, especially my daughter, and I feel so bad. I mean, I don't really believe in regret anymore. Like I just have to accept everything is
Yeah.
learning experience, but it so makes me cringe to remember how I used to try to get my children to
Oh
like
yeah.
vegetables, and I would get books. They have books for parents to try to make them like the vegetables, and I was so stressed all the time about what they were eating. But
Mm.
took a few years before I let that go, the whole vegetable thing, and I realized that that was just such a waste of time. um
Yeah, it must be so refreshing now to not have to think, oh, get the kids to eat the vegetables because,
Yeah,
you know,
now
I'm
I just
assuming
have
they're,
to, try to get them unaddicted to sugar, which is seriously impossible in this world
mm,
because it's
yeah.
everywhere. And um,
Because before the indoctrination and the brainwashing and also before like we grow up and our taste buds, you know, have defense mechanisms and detox. Like now, like when I was a kid, I never used to like vegetables. I hated tomato, hated lettuce, and then, you know, as I grew up, my parents slowly were giving it to me more. Then when I hit maybe 7 or 8, I started liking lettuce and tomato because it was healthy for me. So I think the placebo effect is real. It's
oh
like
yeah.
part of you that, and also my taste buds obviously would have you know, developed to them and started to like them more. So yeah,
Mm.
it's mm.
So what does your family think about the changes that they've seen in you and your friends? Does anyone want to do the same thing to try to see if it can help them after they've seen your results.
Yeah, there's sort of two different people. A lot of people were really nice and willing and open to hear about it and because they want to help their lives. They want me to try help them as well. And there's the other people who are just, oh, you're gonna get a heart attack. Where's your nutrients? Where's your vegetables? And those people are just idiotic. So
Yeah.
I don't really waste my like I have a talk with them, but then they're just so stubborn. I'm just like, oh, I'm not gonna waste my energy on you.
Right. They're
Um,
not open.
but my family's most in the carnivore diet. My parents barely ever had any red meat ever, and now my mom is 100% carnivore. My dad's like 90% animal based.
Oh, wow. Well, that is
Yeah,
so cool. That's really
yeah.
cool. I love that. It sounds like they're open-minded and
Mm.
humble, and that's so cool. I love that.
And also I've just been like ranting and just talking about the carnivore diet nonstop, so they sort of had to because I was just talking about it nonstop at the household, just saying I can't believe these benefits. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, you don't get sunburn anymore, all these things, and I can't believe no one knows this. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I would do if my husband wasn't doing it with me because it's nice that I can talk to him and he gets it and he can, he doesn't think I'm crazy. But if I was the only person doing it, I know that can be lonely. A lot of people I've seen make comments about how, they're the only person in their house that does it. So they feel kind of lonely. It's hard to watch
Yeah,
everybody else eat and eat that junk and I'm glad that he does it with me.
yeah, 100%. I can't imagine, growing up and getting a girlfriend or a wife, and I don't know. I can't imagine them being a vegan. Like it's just not
I
gonna
know, I was
happen.
just going to ask you, do you
Like
think
they're
it's going to
gonna,
make it harder for you to find somebody?
yeah, but I do think that, although it'll be harder, I'll be the right person. So, like, they're gonna be animal based. They're gonna be animal
Right.
based at
And I
least if
think
they're not
that's
carnivore.
smart. I think that's smart. I think Dr.
Because
Chafee talks about that he couldn't date somebody that's just going to eat a bunch of junk, and that's fine.
I want the kids. I want you know the pregnancy
Right.
to go well and the kids to grow up healthy. They're like literally the kids is my like last name. I don't want them to be deficient and stuff.
Yes. See, that's
So
perfect. I love that. That's such a great outlook. And you're
yeah.
taking responsibility for your future and your children, your future children as
Mm.
as the father, already. That's so cool. A lot of kids your age, and they're not a kid, but like a lot of people your age don't look that far into the future. I think that's a good quality.
Mm. Thanks.
Um, so I think part of carnivores, you have to be really open-minded. Would you say
Mm.
you were a more open-minded person before you learned about it, and that's kind of how you were convinced, or were you kind of go with the flow,
No,
closed-minded
I'm
person?
I'm I'm a very open-minded person. I also part of it I was just so desperate that I was
Hmm.
just like so many people are really sick or they're really fat and they're really sick and they're still stubborn. Like I see fat
Yeah.
people or really sick people, I'm like saying that's not good, or I don't say that, but they're eating these vegetables and
Yeah.
salads, and I'm like, it's clearly not working. It's
Right.
clearly so why
Right.
don't you like you're literally not like I was humble enough to admit, okay, this isn't working. I'm
It's
sick,
not
I'm unwell.
working. Yeah.
Give me the answers. I'll take anything.
Yeah.
There's people who are sick and unwell and they're like, oh no, I know what I'm doing. Mate's gonna give you a heart attack. Well, how's that
Hmm.
working for you? You're gonna have a heart attack any second now if you don't change. It's like, do you
Yeah.
get that?
Yes. I think I think the reason so many people are closed-minded and they believe these little things that they believe that they've heard is because it seems to me that in general, the government and the society sort of gaslights everybody and
Mm,
sort of says like every few years they come out with the guidelines for the food and everything. And then they say all these things like, oh, we want all Americans to be healthy. And that's why we have these guidelines. And I'm like, but it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that all of these chronic diseases and the obesity has gotten worse the more
I
you
know.
guys tell us to eat the grains and the more vegetables that you tell us to do and the less fat that you tell us to do. it literally like keeps getting worse, but you keep saying that it's grounded in science and that we should listen to this. And so it's like these people are a reflection of that when they just say, no, I need to eat more vegetables and fruits. And I'm like, but it's making you worse. Like, how do you not see
And
this?
most people, when they ask, so this is usually how the conversation goes. You know, I'll be at a social event and I'll be eating meat, no
Hmm.
vegetables on my plate, and they'll be like, "Oh, where's your vegetables?" or
Hmm.
something. Or someone would bring up I'm on the meat only diet, and I'm like, "Oh, why do I need vegetables?" And then people are like, "Oh, because they're good for you." And then I'm sort of like, "Well, how are they good for me?" And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
because they have benefits and vitamins." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Which benefits and vitamins do they have?" And then after that conversation's finished, they don't even know a single vitamin in vegetables usually.
Yeah. Or they
And
just say the fiber thing. Yeah.
yeah, and then I just straight just absolutely just destroy that argument in front of their face. So, but even with the wait, what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, the government, right? Like, yeah, I forgot what I was gonna say.
The guidelines.
Oh yeah, the guidelines, right? They're so fraudulent. Ever since 1960, in the last 50 years, we've decreased our meat, saturated fat, and cholesterol consumption by 33%. We've decreased it by 33%, and now guess what's happened? Heart attacks have tripled, cancer's tripled, obesity's tripled, and dementia
Right.
and Alzheimer's has tripled by
Right.
decreasing it.
Right.
It's
I just found these amazing, like I'm gonna post these, but they're like these vintage ads from the 50s. And you just said that ever since you said for 60 years, right? So I
yeah, 50
believe
years,
that,
yeah.
okay, so that's like 1970 or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So this makes sense because these ads for red meat that were in the magazines back then in the 50s and 60s were really great. They were praising red meat as the, healthiest thing you could eat, and make sure you get your red meat because it's not only delicious and everybody knows it's delicious and wants it, but it's so good for you and it gives you all the protein you need. And it's so cool to read these ads. But then I realized, oh, this was right before all of the, the sugar industry bought out the studies
Yeah,
and
yeah,
made
yeah.
them lie and say that red meat was bad. And so we knew, I mean, Americans were, they were all about the high fat dairy, the Weston Price type diet. And we knew instinctually that these were the yummy foods that we wanted to eat. And then it started to just totally be
Mm,
taken over with the propaganda. And it's infuriating because, now, I mean, we have the fat-free and 1% milk that we're giving children.
my gosh.
And I nothing angers me more than to see these children in these schools now malnourished and not getting enough
Oh,
fat. It makes me so mad because there's no more crucial time for us to
yeah.
be nourishing our brain with fat than when we're like children. And you know what's crazy to me is that we all acknowledge that breast milk is the healthiest thing for a baby. And then I believe I heard that like you're
It's
born,
44% saturated fat
yeah,
breast milk.
exactly, right? And we praise breast milk as so, the perfect food. And apparently, when babies are born, they're born in a state of ketosis. And
Yeah.
they pretty much are staying in that state if they're breastfed for 6 months, which is just like, hello. Like, we all acknowledge this is like the perfect natural state for these babies to be breastfeeding. And then we're like, okay, now it's time to give them cereal, give them rice for the first food and then
It's
start taking the fat away. And I'm like, no, their brains literally don't stop developing until they're like 25 years old. And we've got to give them the fat. And it's a travesty.
yeah, it's honestly like disgusting. Like I feel sad thinking about it. Part of me just wants to move away and get away from everything, from all society and just but then obviously you have to stay tell people about it. Can't just do that. Because it's so
Yeah,
sad and knowing this at a young age as well, it's like, oh, I just everywhere I just see it. And if an 18-year-old doesn't take long, all it takes is one month of research, not even that, just research for a few hours, some stuff for yourself, and you can just find there all the lies. And it's not hard. If an 18-year-old can
right.
learn all this stuff, learn stuff that doctors haven't been learning for years because all their information is based off fraudulent studies, it's not
Hmm.
that really not that hard to learn. It's not like,
No,
yeah,
it's
it's
not. I think that it's amazing that you have the opportunity to learn through the internet and through each other, like that we never had that growing up. So
mm,
um, I hope that young people today realize the responsibility and the privilege that they have to kind of find the truth.
yeah,
I don't know. Sometimes I get like, wow, I think some young people are just so overwhelmed by it all and they're apathetic. And maybe they just live day to day for pleasure. But I hope
that's
that
most of
that,
kids my age. They're all just
yeah,
out partying, drinking, girls and stuff, and it's just like,
yeah,
yeah, cool, that's fun for a bit, but like, what's your purpose in life
it's
once you're
not
learning?
going to bring you happiness. I mean, I went through
Yeah,
that and it was misery. It's a waste of time, honestly. Yeah, I just got a new job at a restaurant and
I'm sick.
I'm seeing some people that work there. Of course, they're like half my age. And that's what they do. They smoke pot, they drink until they get wasted. And I always wonder, what is the root cause of that? Do they just feel disconnected from reality or they
Mm.
want to disconnect from reality? I don't know. It's sad.
Yeah, it's just a symptom of poor mental health, I guess, and it's
Exactly, which
like
can be healed through this diet, I think.
yeah, yeah. And just learning about, like, a lot of people say, oh, you need carbohydrates, your brain works really well on glucose, and it's just absolute bullcrap. Like, our brain is 60% fats and 40% proteins, and we only need around 30 grams of carbs a day to function. Our nervous system only needs around 30 grams of carbs, and this carbs can be found through
Yeah.
gluconeogenesis in our blood. We can actually produce this as glucose. We can, yeah, gluconeogenesis, you can produce this, and our brain is literally 60% fat.
Right.
It's 60% fat. If I was listening to a Chafee podcast and he said that there was a kid who grew up carnivore and his brain and skull was just so big. It was in like the 99.9% percentile. Um, his like cranium was so big, and he was just literally like starting to walk super early. He was just ahead of every
Wow.
single marker because obviously your brain grows when you eat meat. This is seen in evolution. We've done all the, nitrogen testing and all the stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, so I really just hope that like my kids and stuff can, get that nourishment at a young age and, hopefully not have ADHD and stuff like I do and all these
Oh,
things.
that's so cool. What do
Yeah.
you think you want to do after? Are you gonna go to college or are you
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
really in? Okay.
Well, I don't like the whole education system and stuff, but I'm really interested in physiotherapy because I've had a lot of injuries and I really want to help kids with physio stuff. So
Oh,
I've
cool.
enrolled back into my course next year, and we'll see where this YouTube thing goes. I'm gonna quit my part-time job to pursue YouTube. I'm
Oh, I
probably
love that.
because when I get monetized soon. So
Yes, that is so awesome. Both
and
both my sons want to be YouTubers, so
you know, me and Ed, we never ever wanted to be like a YouTuber. We just thought, oh, it's kind of cringe, whatever. But we want to
right.
spread this message, and what's the best way to spread it? An
Yes.
online platform where thousands of people can watch your stuff. So,
Oh, I think YouTube out of all the platforms, and then maybe Instagram, but I'm partial to YouTube. I think it's the best one.
mm,
Um, yeah. Well, you can tell
yeah,
you're passionate about what you do, and that's great that you want to help children with that. That's awesome.
yeah, I see so much joy just from seeing other people get better. I don't know. I think it's just because it's changed my life so much that I just want to,
Right.
see other people get better and that there's a life beyond drugs and pills
Right. It
and
gives you a lot of freedom and it makes you feel better about yourself that you can, you know, just feel so good on your own and
yeah,
need
and
you don't need this whole team of professionals with conflicts of interest.
yeah, and I'm still, I don't know, blown away at just how so many people were brainwashed. And I think it's still a little bit in my system. Like sometimes I'm eating fat, a little bit of me will be like, oh, maybe that's bad for me. Like I don't think it, but subconsciously it's
Oh,
still
right.
so deeply rooted into me
Right.
that, oh, maybe I will get a heart attack. But obviously learning more, saturated fat is actually protective for your heart. And even things like statins, 50% of people 50% of people who have heart attacks have low cholesterol. It's like
Oh
cholesterol is a
yeah.
vital cholesterol is a
Yeah.
vital hormone, or not hormone. Cholesterol is a vital whatever it is for your body. You need
Yeah.
it for testosterone. It's found in every cell in your body. Cholesterol is vital. It is vital.
Right. It's a good thing. And it, yeah. Um, yeah, I'm not really interested in getting my blood work done right now. Maybe at some point, but I don't feel like having that conversation with a doctor.
Yeah, no, yeah. Like I told my psychiatrist how my life's fully changed and stuff on this diet, and I don't need all these pills. And he didn't even
Yeah.
say good job. First thing, he's like, "Oh, what about your cholesterol?" That was first thing he said.
Oh gosh, I know.
And I'm like, "Mate,
Ugh.
you're not even trained in nutrition. What are you on about? You're a psychiatrist.
Yeah,
You're just a
my
psychiatrist."
mom is worried
Sorry,
about
go.
mine.
Yeah, yeah, it's not. Trust me, it's fine. He'll be fine. And honestly, most psychiatrists are just drug dealers in a lab coat. Honestly, they're just drug dealers who are wear a lab coat. Like they literally just don't even ask about your lifestyle factors or health. They just chuck
No,
drugs at you because
and I've
yeah,
noticed I go to a therapist right now. Um, it's not really like I really feel like I need to, but it's complicated. So it sort of has to do with
yeah, all good.
my custody battle. And I have been advised to go see a therapist. So there's just candy. You walk in the room and he's got candy sitting there. And like I wouldn't have noticed that years ago, but now I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah, like the doctor's office they have. I think when I used to go whenever I was younger, at the end they'd give us like a jelly bean each or something, and it's like
Yes.
we're at the doctor's. Like
Right. Or the
you're giving them
dentist.
drugs.
Yeah,
Sugar is a drug.
the dentist, they have these like special lollipops they used to give my kids that they were like, oh, they're good because they're not sugar. They have like a fake sugar in them. But still, it's just ridiculous. I went to this when I got hired at this restaurant where I work now, which is hilarious to be a carnivore and work at a restaurant. But um when I
You
went
cook
to
it in
the
potatoes.
oh yeah, they use seed oils. It's Italian
Do you have to
restaurant.
cook it in potatoes or not?
Well, no, I'm not cooking. I'm just a server. I just serve the food.
Ah,
But
okay.
yeah, they had candy out when we came in to do our orientation, all the waiters. They had candy all over the table. Like, here's your candy so you can get through your first day of orientation. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah. Well, let's see. I think we're running out of time.
Yeah, perfect.
But what's your biggest piece of advice if someone is watching this and it's a young person that's kind of in a bad place? If they are interested in starting carnivore, what's your biggest piece of advice?
I'd say check out my Instagram page or a lot of other Instagram pages, Carnivore Vitality. It's not just a plug, it's genuine, can help.
Mhm.
It's really the only way that I've found to heal if you're really, really down bad. A lot of these other diets, they just focus on losing weight. This focuses on healing you first, and then
Yeah,
the weight comes.
right.
And it's just there's hope on the other side, and you've just been lied to your whole life. So it's and thrown pills at, and it's just not the solution. And don't give up because there is hope. And I'm so glad I never ever gave up. As even if when things keep getting hard, you just gotta keep going and to keep looking for the truth, and eventually you will find it. As I did at 18. So, yeah,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And everybody go check out his channel, Carnivore Vitality, and
yep,
on
Carnival
Instagram.
Vitality on YouTube, on Instagram. So yeah,
Okay.
feel free to check us out.
Thanks,
And thanks so
Daniel.
much. Thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Same. Thank you for your time. Bye.
All right, sweet.